Hi, and welcome to the NBA Economy Show. This is Fritz. I'm back just to give the latest news. And the latest news we heard from Ian Begley, and that is the Knicks have inquired of Clint Capela. This isn't a surprise if you've been paying attention to our show and also the Nick of Time show, um, because we did identify him as one of the high price centers in the NBA, and several reasons that can be attractive to the Knicks. Usually, lower the price, the better. But the Knicks are in an interesting situation where maybe a high price center is something they want to take on. A contract that is short, that ends at the end of the year, where they possibly could re sign someone for less. Or the other option is if something attractive comes available, they can sign and trade this summer. Uh, one of the Knicks do not want to give up their Giannis dreams, and if you want to trade for Giannis, you need the amount of salary it needs. Um, you need the a good amount of salary to make that happen. Even someone like Julius Randle wouldn't be enough. So you need salary to trade. And currently, the Knicks don't have a lot of like middle of the road salaries to make a big trade happen. So if Giannis came on the scene with the current group of players, you're ending up trading guys like Dante or trading people like Josh Hart uh, when you really don't want to. Um, so they really want to have keep their flexibility, even though they like their team. Um, so this just confirms that they're looking for a high price center, and we're just gonna take a look at Clint Capela and what he gives you. Currently, he's at 30 years old, 6'10", but he's a center. Um, and last year he gave 11 points, a little over 10 rebounds, 4.6 offensive rebounds. Wanted to point that out because that's just a big thing about what the Knicks are doing now. Um, Good field goals and good amount of blocks. And those numbers are in line with his career numbers. So he didn't have like an especially great year or especially bad year, but he was in line. Um, he's definitely someone who can help the Knicks. Um, he started all 73 games, so he's someone who can help stabilize that position. His salary is 22 million next year, this coming year, and it's an expiring contract. So that's what makes it especially attractive. It's expiring. You have flexibility, just how we have with Fournier. Someone you can uh, not sign if it needed. Someone you can sign if you need it. Someone you can sign and trade if needed. So Knicks are really looking for someone that's flexible. So who really is in that high price center range? Um, let's look here. And pretty much, I picked out four centers that would kind of, you know, be along that track. Um, Brooke Lopez, yeah, Clint Capella. Um, we see, let me see, from Orlando. Yeah, so we have pretty much four players I identified. Uh, it just also, it really wasn't a surprise that we were interested in, but it does really confirm that the Knicks um, may be willing to trade Mitchell Robinson. Just because to make that trade. Typically, with normal trades, you could be uh, within 25%. But with the Knicks, um, the interesting point is that with the Knicks, since we can't take back more salary than we give, so if the Knicks are going to trade for someone with 22.2 million, they're going to have to give back 22.2 plus. To make that happen, we do have Precious Achua we can sign and trade, but we can't just sign and trade him for any amount we want. It's only up to the point that would bring us to the um, up to the second apron, and the difference between the second apron and us is around 13.8 million. So we can sign and trade Precious for $13.8 million, but then you have to add on to that, and I kind of did the calculation. So if we gave Precious the most we can give him, and even if we gave up McBride and Sims, that would only come up to uh, $20.5 million. Um, so even if you're using McBride and Sims with Precious, you don't quite get there. Um, if you go with Robinson in trade, you can trade Robinson and Precious and get there um, pretty easily. Um, if you went with Robinson, McBride, and Sims, you get to 21. So you don't quite get there. If the Knicks went with Robinson and Precious, uh, that means they would have to pretty much replace their whole center core. Um, so you're talking about not only bringing in that one player, they probably have another player lined up someplace else. So if they're looking at Clint Capela, um, it looks like you're looking at Robinson going out the door. Um, that the Knicks are probably going to overhaul the center position. Um, they don't have much more salary than that, so you're probably maybe looking at Walker Kessler, getting Walker Kessler through Deuce or another low price center. I really wouldn't I really wouldn't rely on Sims. So it's just a kind of a revelation that the Knicks are probably have talked about moving Mitch, even though we're short staffed. And the implication of moving Mitch is you're overhauling the center position. You're probably bringing in two centers. You're probably working on multiple trades. Um, so that gives us a little bit of an idea of what's going on. Uh, Also, I looked at the rosters of a lot of these teams, and with or Atlanta, Atlanta currently has 16 paid players on their roster, so they're gonna have a roster of 15. So they need to get rid of players. So right now, it doesn't make sense that they would do a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1, us giving them more players, unless they're gonna do a few trades. Orlando currently has 15 paid players on their roster. Actually, let me go into Atlanta a little bit more. They have 16 paid players on the roster, and they're slightly over the luxury tax by less than $1 million. In Atlanta, they're very financially conscious, so I expect Atlanta to make a move, but to make a move that they lose salary. The reason if they get their roster with $1 million less than they do now, they'll get a check back from the league. So at the end of the year, Um, Instead of like most teams, they pay the league an extra money. They'll get a check from the league, probably 16, $17 million plus. Um, okay. So we go on to Orlando. They have already have 15 paid players on the roster. Um, they've also met the minimum salary of the NBA, so they're not one of those teams that they're gonna easily accept more money. So look for like a third. They could accept more money. They're not in luxury tax. They're 25 million before hitting the first apron, and they're 36 million from the second apron. So they can accept a little bit more salary, but again, it's not likely they want to accept a trade where they're accepting three players for one player. The next one is the Bulls. They also have 15 rostered players, and they're 4.6 million from the luxury tax line. So, um, yeah, they probably could take a little bit more salary, but they're not going to take. Uh, they also would not ideally want a 3-for-1 deal. So I'm really starting to think that um, the Knicks are looking at a team that's gonna do a few trades. I also don't think the Knicks would necessarily be out on Walker Kessler already, even though we're talking about high salary. So we could be talking about getting a high salary player and getting Walker Kessler. Um, I think with the Knicks need the flexibility um, with a Randall extension and Mikal Bridges extension. I think they want that flexibility there, and I think they want the flexibility just in case Giannis becomes available. And I think the Knicks would just, blow all the money and just pay it. But I think they want the flexibility that they're not out on anything where their hands are tied. Um, yeah, so I'm just gonna talk about our depth chart currently. Um, yeah, so currently uh, we only have Mitchell Robinson, Jericho Sims, and Huck Porty. I didn't put Huck Porty because he signed to a two-way. So we see how empty they are up front. So we could be looking at multiple incoming players, even though this summer is dwindling down. Uh, Currently, our financial situation, I know this page is getting full. We have $13.6 million of remaining space to the second apron. That's also helps us get that number. What's the maximum we can give Precious? Is pretty much that number because we can go up to that second apron space. So in a trade, if they talk about signing trading Precious, don't think it's going to be above that 13.6 million, unless that team unless that team has like cap space, a large amount of cap space. Um, Let me see what else here. We haven't signed Kevin McCullough. And also here, we see that we have 13 of our 15 roster spots filled. So if the Knicks do pull off a trade, um, we can accept a large 3-for-1 trade because uh, we only have two spots left, not including Huck Porty. So if that's keeping Huck Porty as a two-way and Kevin McCullough um, unsigned. So that's kind of where we're at. If anybody has any questions, I'll gladly answer it. I think that's a good indication where we're at. Um, so my theory is the Knicks the Knicks may be looking at um, two centers or a tweener. Um, so two centers for the Knicks is what I'm thinking right now. Um, Mitchell Robinson hasn't been healthy over the last few years, so just getting a backup center probably isn't um, something they want to do. They want someone who can be able to take the center spot if Mitchell Robinson isn't there. Um, with this kind of theory, it kind of makes me think maybe they have thoughts of Mitchell Robinson being done if they can't if they can't find someone who is uh, far and away starter worthy, someone who's going to take 30 minutes a game, not someone who's going to just take um, just backup minutes. So that's all I have for now. If there's any breaking news, I'll definitely bring it. I know tomorrow I probably do want to talk a little bit about Julius Randle because there's just been a lot of negative Julius Randle posts. We've seen a lot of Julius Randle trade proposals. We also heard from Ian Begley today talking about, there's a definite camp that likes Randle going forward, and there's definitely uh, a camp within the Knicks think that a uh, different style player at power forward would be better. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about that tomorrow. I'm really glad you guys tuned in. If you have any questions or comments, just put it in the chat. Um, that's that's always great. Hit me up on Twitter for its handles, um, or you may see me on Indica Time Show. Definitely looking forward to talking to y'all, and have a good night.